question and answers.
Mr. Anderson? Okay, come on.
Anyway, first of all, Mikko from Finland wants to know what touched you in rock and roll and what was a song that brought you into rock music?
Heartbreak Hotel.
Okay.
Was it's still one of my favourite songs. I think it's a song that I can remember. There was other songs around at the time, and I was just changing from country and western music into rock and roll because I was very young. 1954, 1955. I was only like I was born 1947, so I was less than 10 years old, 8 years old. And I remember I used to love Teddy Bear, a baby, baby. But it was Heartbreak Hotel for me.
Okay.
That once I heard that record, I thought, to me, that's what it's a blues song.
Yeah.
You know. So that was the song I think that really.
The voices of old say rock and roll. I said I want for the money. Street in my mind, don't you step on my blue suede shoes, mama. You can do anything with all of my blue suede shoes. You can knock me down and you can get on my face. My name all over the place. Do anything that you think you wanna do, but honey, they are my shoes, don't you step on my blue suede shoes. You can do anything, but honey, they are my blue suede shoes. You can knock me down, steal my car, keep my bumpers and go to the job. Do the thing that you wanna do. Honey, you are my shoes, don't you step on my blue suede shoes. But you can do anything, they are my blue suede shoes.
And that was also the point which touched you to join rock and roll?
It meant everything. It meant rock and roll to me. You know, Elvis. I didn't know much about Elvis. No one knew much about Elvis in those days. An American singer, rock and roll was new music. It was 1953, 1954. The year it came out, I don't know, but yeah, Heartbreak Hotel.
Okay, cool.
It had me there every day for me, and then a little bit later, of course, you hear Jailhouse Rock before Elvis went,
After the good times.
Yeah.
Okay, next. Peta wants to know, how did you met Peter and what's the Ted's favorite places to blaze these days? Okay, maybe first, how did you met Peter or how did it all come up?
I was travelling to Sydney for a holiday with Mick, and while we were having a holiday, we were looking for people to form a band, make a band. And a friend up there said to me, we were around his place buying something to entertain ourselves, and he said, have you spoken to Peter Wells and Ian Rylands? They're starting a band. And I said, no. He said, do you know who they are? I said, yeah, from Peter from Buffalo and Ian from Band of Light. And I said, what are they doing for a band? He said, they want to do a blues band, but with a difference, rock and roll, but blues.
Yeah.
And I said, well, that's what I want to do. So he gave me Pete's number, Ian's number. And I rang him up, and Mick and I went around, and Peter was there, and we talked about music and had a jam.
And that was it?
That's, I used to think, Peter used to say that it was 75, but now Mick seems to think that it was more 76. But it was about, in that year.
First show was on New Year's Eve 76.
Apparently 76 into 77.
77.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Which makes us 30 years old this year, not last year. But anyway, that doesn't matter. That was how I met Peter.
So, okay, and what you thought when you first met him?
The thing is, I liked Ian straight away. He's a very likeable boy, but Peter was very, he stood off and he didn't say much. And I just said to him after the first time we had a jam, I'd always loved slide guitar, and I was looking for a slide player. In fact, when Mick and I went to Sydney, we knew there was other slide players. There was a guy who used to be in Band of Light with Ian called Norm Rowe, a fantastic slide player. We actually tried to get him in the Tats, but he was too fried by that stage.
Okay.
But we were looking for a slide player, and when we heard Peta play that first day, and I said to Mick, my favourite slide player was Ronnie Wood, apart from blues players like John Lee Hooker. And I said, he is the best slide guitar player in the fucking world. And I said, we've got to be in a band with him.
Okay, cool. So next, Philip Davis asked if you could imagine how many shows you played since your start with the Buster Brown and there's also the Penetrators. Was it also a band you were in?
I don't know how he actually heard about Buster Hyman and the Penetrators, but
yeah.
I mean, there's no way of knowing how many shows you play in 30 years. That's impossible to know. Too many, maybe, or not enough. I mean, these days, if it wasn't for Europe, particularly Germany, but the rest of Europe as well, we wouldn't play as much as we do. Europe has always kept the band alive. So we feel it's like our second home, particularly Germany. We base ourselves here. Our record company's here. Our European management between Australia and we have a management, with Thomas for ICS here. So it's like a second home. But we now think maybe we're going to spend more time in Berlin than Hamburg as we used to. But we've always felt that it was like our second home. But I think what has been brought into focus in the last few years is these are the last gigs that we'll play these years, which is reason in the line in 1854, and it says if these are our last days, then let it be. So be it. In other words, well, that's the way it is, because these are our last days. So every gig we play always has been to us very important, very precious. Because I remember Pete saying years ago, the ideology with the band was that we play every gig like it's our last. So when it is our last, we play it as good as our first. And we play as good at first as we were at last. So that's the way we've always looked at it. And I think we will play our last gig more than likely here. I think we'll finish the band here. We'll probably go home and play one more gig for Australia as well. But but that's maybe 3, 4, 5 years.
Yeah, many people asking about the future.
Yeah.
I think it's hard to say how long it will last, but you see, 5 more years for the Tats.
I think so. Yeah. But then again, 5 years ago, I said 5 years left. When we get to 30. Because Peta was still alive then, and we talked about when we get to 30 years old, that's a long time to be a band, and maybe we'd try and do as many albums as we could, as long as we had good songs. But around about 30 years, we both agreed that would be a good way. 30 years, last album, forget it, because there's a lot of bullshit, involved in the industry. And both of us don't enjoy that. So we kind of thought, 30 years. But now, who knows? I mean, I said, I don't want to be singing rock and roll at 65. But I remember 10 years ago I said, I don't want to be singing rock and roll at 60. And now all of a sudden, at 60, so I don't want to be singing rock and roll at 65. When I get to 65, I might be saying I don't want to sing rock and roll when I'm 70.